Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Good morning. On this day in history, on March 4th, in 1952, Ernest Hemingway finishes The Old Man and the Sea. You should read that book. I'm not going to read the description of it, but I am going to read you the description of this day in history for Saturday. On March 8th, on Saturday, that is International Women's Day, by the way. And on Saturday, on this date in history, March 8th, 1971, Muhammad Ali battled Joe Frazier for the heavyweight champion. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier met for the fight of the century at Madison Square Garden. The bout marked Ali's return after boxing commissions revoked his license over his refusal to fight in the Vietnam War. Although Ali initially landed more punches as he glided about the ring, Frazier's punches seemed to have more impact. The fight was already decided by the 15th round when Frazier landed a left hook to Ali's right chin, knocking down the champion. Frazier won the fight by unanimous decision. That is the day in history for this Saturday. And yes, you should read Old Man and the Sea as well. So welcome. I hope you're already being kind to my substitute as I am at a meeting over at the district center today. I want to direct your attention to our objectives for the day. So your objectives for today are to describe totalitarianism in Nazi Germany. In particular, we're going to be looking at how Nazi Germany was totalitarian towards the Jewish population. And your second goal is to analyze patterns in the Nazi persecution of Jews before the Holocaust. A lot of people know about the Holocaust. We will study that next week. But what I want you to know is that it didn't just happen out of nowhere, that there was an escalation. As a quick review, anti-Semitism is racism against Jews. So at this point, you should have, or you will have it handed out to you, the assignment that you should is due no later than tomorrow, but certainly you will be most likely finishing it today and turning it in today, the anti-German Jewry and anti-Semitic legislation. So I want you to pay attention to the board, which has some of the different tasks on it, and I'm going to model the first few tasks for you so you can understand it. Before we go even further though, I want to jump to kind of the big picture of where you're going. So, here we go. If you wanted to zoom in on this, you're ultimately trying to analyze patterns of the persecution of Jews. And so, this last page has questions like, as the years pass, do you notice any pattern developing? Provide several examples and explain your answers. Which group is more targeted during which time period? And you can follow along on the last page and read that for yourself. So now let's go back to step number 1. And this is where you might want to come in here. And so the first thing you're going to do is to rate how laws would affect different groups of Jews in Nazi Germany. So you'll see that you have a list of different groups. Okay? Professionals in this case is referring to probably like lawyers and government workers, people who might have a college education. We have in this time period, the time period is right here, this is 1933 through 1937. And what you're going to be doing is rating, if you look at the directions, you're going to rate how much this group would be affected from 1 through 5. 5 is like the worst. So you personally have to decide, from your perspective, how bad do you think this law would be for this group of people. So as you can see on the board, it does say 1 is you're affected because your cultural group is targeted. So there's no zeros in this situation. If you're a Jew and there's a law specifically directed against Jews, you're impacted. 5 is like really, really bad. This is as bad as it gets short of death before we get to the genocidal policies of the Holocaust. So it's about as bad as it can get you. So let's do this first one. So April 1st, 1933, a one-day boycott of all Jewish businesses. Well, men, women are kind of generic. I'll give them a 1. They're targeted because they're Jews. I definitely think businessmen are going to be more impacted, but it's only a one-day boycott. So I have to think, is that a 2? Is it a 3? You decide. So you can put down the number that you personally believe. There is no right or wrong answer there. Youth means people 18 and under. So not so much. Adults, probably elderlies, and professionals, not so much. It seems like this law is really directed against Jewish businessmen, and they're most targeted by that law. Let's do another one. April 7th, 1933, most Jews holding civil service jobs are forced to retire. Well, this is a good time to ask questions if you don't know what a civil service job is, for example. That is a government worker. So this one's a little bit trickier. If you work for the German government, you are forced, basically fired. This definitely is going to be impacting professionals more as we're talking about government workers. Now, they're fired, so it's probably going to be a little more severe, but you can decide how bad that is. So I'm going to put a 3. It's not so much going to affect the elderly. It kind of does affect generally adults. You can decide 1 or 2 or whatever you think is the correct answer. And you have to decide. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer. Let's do one more. April 25th, 1933. The number of Jews that can attend German high schools is limited. Well, I think that's going to affect kids the most. So they're not saying kids can't go to high school, but there's only so many Jewish kids who can go to high school. Maybe it's a 2, maybe it's a 3, the rest are denied opportunities. So then we might go through and add a 1 for the rest of them. These numbers are subjective. This is what historians do. They interpret evidence. Now once you're done with this whole time period, this sheet being 1933 to 1937, you want to add up the total for each column. Yes, you have to do math. So total number of points for list 1. So list up the total for men, women, businessmen, etc. Now once you've done that, you will look at step 2. It says total the numbers for each group within each of the following time periods. So you're going to do step 1 and 2 for each page. What you can figure out is that when you study the numbers and think about the patterns. So now we're looking at number 3, study the patterns in each time period. When a group has a higher number, so say you get like businessmen are the most affected in one time period perhaps. Well, then you know that the laws are definitely targeting them, that they're being impacted more than others. And you might want to think about why that is. Why would one group be targeted more than the others? So that's the kind of information that's very useful for your analysis questions on the last page. When you get to the last page, I want you to be thorough. I do not want just a couple words scribbled here or there. I want you to answer each of these questions with examples, referring back to the original page, and as many supporting details and signs that you are thinking as possible. Now when you're done with this, you can turn it in. It is due today or turn it in tomorrow. But you should start working on it right away. Then you're going to work on step 4. You're going to read chapter 31, section 4, Aggressors Invade Nations. Page 915 is where it starts. And go to your study guide and take notes. So if you have flipped to your study guide, and you find that on your study guide right here, you see the vocabulary terms, you take the notes, and notice that you should turn the page because there's some on the back side. You're welcome to keep on doing homework in this unit. You have a lot of it already, but you should be working all the time. And remember, when you're texting throughout the class, you're not getting your work done. So put the phones away. Have a good day.